Here's a simple narrative to some of the comments throughout the last few months and even up to last year that I've, openly criticized on many platforms on policymakers. I mean, the guy before the current guy wasn't the greatest. He was definitely not a fan of emotions or opinions. But then again, the other guy thinks you can, it's important to spend $5 to save $3. Doesn't make any sense. So I'll put it this way. I could care less what happens in November. I could care less what happens in the legislative, executive, and judicial branches. What I would say is that if you're not saving your pennies and you think these markets aren't going to go south, or you think that something's going to flourish, something builds in flourishing. And I'll give you an example. Micron. Go do your history. Don't fricking look at TikTok. Don't look at Instagram. It's open source information. Find out who was the largest investor of Micron back between April and May. If you don't see that Pelosi's husband had a huge investment draw on that, and now happens to be the star-spangled awesome company that's going to build microchips for the future, and it's all American based, you are out of your minds. Complete fraud. Just like I spoke with a fellow history teacher who was a fellow member of military, and I said, who authorizes Congress to give themselves raises? If there's a taxpayer funded position as a congressman, governor, senator, president, House Speaker, Secretary of Defense, all these dudes, who authorizes them to self-promote their own raises? No one. Taxpayers pay their salaries, which means the only ones that should be voting for their raises prior to a future recession like they did in February would have been us. Instead, as sheep do, you received these awesome, COVID stimulus payments, and your tax returns came in, and you got extensions and moratoriums and debt relief and all these things that are going to cycle in your brain, and you're going to start thinking about how you got drawn to a conclusion and how social media drove you to make these decisions. Go, well, I'm not in the best, but I'm not in the worst house, so it doesn't bother me as long as I got my money. When you stop thinking as individuals and start thinking as a tax-paying group and a community, you're going to start realizing that your government sucks, and that they don't have the authority to just self-fund raises and approve themselves for bigger parachutes and bonuses. Writing laws to extend difficulty later doesn't help anyone. You can't write a gas bill in June saying I'm reducing the amount of gas for the travel season for holidays that most people can't afford anyways, and then expect everybody to be awesome come October when the gas prices are back to where they were at. Didn't do anybody any good. In fact, it's gotten worse. Healthcare ain't the best. It still sucks. Let's go down the path of finances. Everybody's accounts are getting drained because they can't afford the cost of living. There's a great thing that a movie that Morgan Freeman participated in where he froze costs. It's a very easy and economic thing. When you freeze the tables, the floors and the ceilings, people can't price gouge anymore. All it takes is the act of an executive branch to go, you know what? I'm freezing all wages, freezing all costs. It's going to extend for the next 4 years. Nobody will have oversight. No one will overturn it. Now, the month that ends in 48 months, then that's fine. Why aren't people of power that are supposed to be in there, chosen by the people, for the people, and for the greater growth of people and community, aren't positioning themselves for the community? They're positioning themselves for themselves. So just think about that. It doesn't take a very, very hard legislative and executive role to say, I'm going to freeze everything. No more gouging. I don't care about supply chain commands. I don't care about the disciplines. I don't care about the issues. No one's going to charge me $80 a board for lumber, where it's sitting right now around $8. During COVID, no one should be allowed to do that. I don't think anybody should be allowed to charge $6 for a gallon of milk. I don't think location development should be an issue. Now, certainly if you're overseas in Korea or Honolulu, that's different, but the cost in the lower 48 should be fairly equal from east to west, north to south. There's no super extremes that, there's some additional costs, but those can be offset by the short expensive costs. So those all go in an aggregate. If milk is made in California and you're shipping it to New York, well, what does New York provide? New York provides industry, so they get steel and all that stuff from the East Coast. It's a takeaway from both, so something to think about. But when you're thinking about reason why the market sucks now and why renting blows and all that, because nobody capped any ceilings. The communities don't care. The leadership of the communities do not care. They don't care if you spend thousands of dollars on rent. They don't care if you spend hundreds of thousands of dollars over valuation of equity in homes. They don't care. All they care about is the bottom line, is themselves. So those evaluators and lawmakers and all that, that's all that matters. They don't care. So if you want to know why everything sucks now, wait till after Christmas. It's going to be terrible. All these people are going to go back out after Black Friday, buy phones that they can't afford because they got current ones at work. They're going to get through the new year. They're going to bust out a tax return. Everybody's going to be driving around in new cars again. Most of them are going to be EV due to the laws. And, we're back in the same pattern of terrible human absorption of consumerism balanced against policy. And it's terrible. But that's my narrative. I'll leave it at that. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to clarify.